Yamina, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, friends, it is wonderful to be here. It's an absolute honor to be back to host, moderate this incredible lineup of ministers here at the 2025 edition of the Abu Dhabi Culture Summit. And today's discussion aims to explore the way that new technologies and AI are rapidly shaping how people create and consume arts and culture, to address the impact on rights holders and human creativity, and how culture can and does contribute to building a more sustainable and peaceful future, to His Excellency's opening speech, and thank you for that. We will spend the next 90 minutes discussing what my esteemed guests believe are the emerging challenges and risks, as well as opportunities in the cultural sector, and I hope identify some priorities for future collaboration and cooperation. Our focus today is on two themes: AI and culture and peace. Before we begin our two-part ministerial dialogue, I am absolutely delighted today to introduce His Excellency Mohammed Khalifa Al Mubarak, who is the chairman of the Department of Culture and Tourism here in Abu Dhabi, and Ernesto Otoni Ramirez, who is the Assistant Director General for Culture at UNESCO, of course. So can I ask both of those gentlemen to come and join me on the stage? Wherever you like. Don't argue about it. Good morning.
I beg it.
Good morning. All right, we've got about 15 minutes. So what I thought we'd do is just get some brief opening remarks from both of you, because I know that this is the perfect opportunity to do that, and then we'll just have a bit more of a discussion after that. So do you want to just,
Please.
Ernesto, let's kick us off.
Okay. So, first of all, let me tell you, my dear Mohammed, it's always a pleasure to be here. It's the 5th time that in a row that we are coming. And since last year that we had this first meeting of Minister of Culture for the MONDIACULT, I have to say that we are 5 months before having the next one. The priorities are the same. We did the regional consultation. Many of the ministers here present were the leaders of those consultations. But the world has a little bit changed. We are in a worse moment than we were 3 years ago. And I think that the discussion at the right time of the Minister of Culture on all the topics that you mentioned, Becky, are quite important. If we don't put culture at the center of sustainable development for whatever agenda will be built in the future beyond 2030, we're going to miss the greatest opportunity to speak about how culture can help to build peace in this crazy world that we are living in.
Thank you. Well, it's a good start. Mohammed.
If you allow me, good morning, everybody. Sabah al-khair. First and foremost, I would like to welcome our dear friends, but one in particular, my dear friend Frank Gehry, who's here all the way from the States. I think many of you, while driving to Narat Saadiyat and Saadiyat, saw a small building being constructed. That's the Guggenheim Abu Dhabi, and it's beautifully designed by this amazing architect who is here with us. And this is obviously the power of connective culture. You know, we have intellectual minds coming from all over the world intervening here for discussion, for debate, and for future policy, but all for a singular goal: to put culture in the heart of the thoughts of every single policymaker in government. Because it's not a perception, it's a belief that culture brings people together and brings a level of understanding that nothing else can. And in doing that, that brings a much more peaceful thinking to anything we look forward towards. So the ministerial discussions we're going to have here is an opportunity for us to put everything on an equal pedestal. That is why we created the Cultural Summit, is to bring global leaders from every facet of this earth, from every institution on this earth, to sit down and to have an equal voice, a place where we need to understand and a place where we need to action. And I think what's beautiful about the Cultural Summit Abu Dhabi is it continuously sets a track record for it being an action-based summit. And with our partners like UNESCO, we set key milestones and we basically track ourselves after these discussions on what are the actions going to be taking place here. Whether it's culture for education, whether it's culture for a singular governmental power, we always look at opportunities where we can enhance our singular view in this.
Chairman, delegates here are being encouraged to question at this summit what it means to be human in a post-human world, or in an age of unprecedented innovation. I input that question into ChatGPT, and I got this, quote, "In a post-human world, being human involves navigating a landscape shaped by technology, ethical complexity, and cultural evolution. It challenges us to reconsider identity, connection, and responsibility, and to find meaning in a continually transforming existence. Embracing this ambiguity may lead to a richer, more inclusive understanding of humanity that honors both our biological heritage and our technological future." From an Abu Dhabi perspective, how is the culture sphere evolving in this transformative landscape? You talked about the Guggenheim. Can you just give us a kind of wider sense for those who aren't residents here? Of course, I'm lucky enough to be a resident here, so perhaps understand more than most.
So I think everybody knows here, and we've had discussions on our belief on the power of culture. I think we truly believe it's the building blocks of any future-thinking society. And in doing so, we need to be continuously creating opportunities for creators to create. And I underline the word creators. Creators are us human beings. It's our thoughts, it's our imagination, it's our creativity. And we want to harness that power here, whether it's through our institutions like the Guggenheim Abu Dhabi or the Louvre or Team Lab Phenomena, and the list goes on, or more importantly in our educational institutions, where we truly are rewriting the books in our cultural curricula, making sure that our cultural programming in schools is just as important as the maths and sciences. Because the future is not just about coders. Of course, they're going to exist, but the fact of the matter is it's about the creators. We're going to create these beautiful thoughts and imaginations that are going to help shape how we define our relationship with AI. AI is going to be a tool that we can use. We ask ourselves, who is the painter? Is it the paintbrush or is it the artist? That's the exact same. The artist is using the paintbrush to paint. It's coming from his or her thoughts. It's the same thing with the usage of AI. I think utilizing it can be a great tool for us to broadcast our universal culture that is truly grounded with our human values. I think we should never forget that. What connects us as human beings are our shared values of humanity, whether that comes from religion or it just comes from our just human and intuitive connections. And we look at that in all of our assets. In our museums, these are institutions of belonging. They are institutions that are telling a story of the past, the present, and the future. And we use technology, and we will continuously use technology to reach. We can reach a much wider audience with our clear messages here. So I do not see AI as sort of a negative. I'm obviously very optimistic. I see it as a massive positive, but the only way it continues to be positive if there is a unified view on how we're going to be using this tool, and how in the back of our minds and the front of our minds is the opportunities to create opportunities for creators to flourish. So job opportunities for them and usage for them. And I think that is the critical tool that we're doing here, because we do not see our investment in culture as just a component of education or cultural enthusiasm. We really see it as a major GDP contributor. We see it as not just a sector that creates jobs, but a sector that can flourish side by side with the enhancement of AI and technology, and at the same time with the high focus of government on social cohesiveness.
Yeah, it's extremely complex, but you've laid out very clearly there where Abu Dhabi is focused. Ernesto, this year, UNESCO celebrates 20 years of empowering creativity. The nexus of culture and new technologies, very specifically AI, to the chairman's point, is dominating discussion in 2025. What do you believe are the biggest risks, and what are the clear opportunities in the culture sphere?
Look, we are coming just back from the third forum of museum that we organized in China. We had more than 120.
How was that, by the way?
Amazing. Amazing. The discussion was on technology and how to use technology for support the role of museum today. Not the ancient version of museum, but as a place of encounter between cultures, communities, and technology clearly can build the new future of some institutions. And I say some institution. So we see the positive side, artificial intelligence, new technology. But in 2021 at UNESCO, our member states, you were ambassador at the time, I remember, my dear minister, the discussion came to the ethics of artificial intelligence. And we're not even talking about regulation yet, but we are talking to have a basis that everybody understands what is at stake. And for example, as you mentioned, we are celebrating 20 years of the 2005 on diversity of cultural expressions at UNESCO. And the huge discussion is about technology and platforms, not even artificial intelligence. How we ensure the diversity of content, of language, so that we maintain this dialogue that Mohamed was talking about. How we continue to build bridges between the different cultures. And our intergovernmental organization are built on this base. So when we are somehow taking two new trends that we are talking in MONDIACULT, from one side artificial intelligence and the other side culture and peace, we are putting it together. We cannot build technology without ensuring that it's made for the communities, livelihoods, well-being, and construction for the next generation. So we are building those bridges, and I believe that we have to work all together, all the stakeholders. It's not only about governmental issues. You have to integrate civil society. You have to integrate creators, and private sector has also to be part of this discussion. But we have to build it together. It cannot be imposed.
You use the term together, and I want to close this part of our discussion today with getting the insight from both of you as to whether this era of what doesn't feel particularly ripe for togetherness at present, there are real challenges, there is a real sense of uncertainty. You know, this sort of event, which is a sort of, a platform for collective thinking and rethinking, seems almost unique these days as we live in an era which is very fractured. So I know that you take this as an opportunity to ensure that the inclusion of culture as a standalone goal is part of the 2030 development agenda. Given the skepticism that we hear today, given the fact that the term culture is so caught up in the sense of culture wars these days, can you just be very clear about the concise argument for that goal? There is some skepticism.
Yes, it is. It is.
I don't want to ignore the elephant in the room.
No, it's more complicated today than it was 3 years ago when we are talking about a standalone goal for culture. Because the discussion is that we do not know what will be the next agenda, on how it will be built, and we are aware of it. But you can call it dark cat, write whatever you want. There will be an agenda because we have to come together to build something that makes. And this time, what we don't want is not to have culture in the middle of it, because it's transforming our societies. So why we don't start the discussion now? So when in 2027 at the UN level, the discussion will take place with our member states, we have done the job to identify what are the elements that should shape whatever this goal will be called, so that we don't miss the opportunity that we missed in 2015. And today, we are dealing that we have an agenda where culture is not present. The Minister of Culture, civil society, and the creators are doing their best to be present. But it's not written anywhere. So we have to write it. And now is the moment, not in 3 years more.
Short-term memory. I think, unfortunately, we all have a short-term memory. It was just like yesterday, during the pandemic, where the whole world told us that the world of creators and creatives is going to be forgotten. The world of theater, the world of live entertainment, music, dance, performances is going to be just seen on a screen somewhere. And just like that, humanity struck. Concerts are busier than they've ever been. Theaters are busier than they've ever been. Places like this, where people can collaborate and connect, are more needed than ever. So let's not have a short-term memory. The pandemic came and reminded us the importance of culture, that it has to be in the heart of everything that we do. It is a reminder of our humanity, as Ernesto said. And the fact of the matter is, we might not get too many reminders. So when we get them, we should use them and use them together. And it's places like this where we all come together. It's a place where it's asking us to collaborate. We know what we have to do. Unfortunately, sometimes we allow the bureaucracies of life to make things difficult for us. Our governments all know that culture in time of need is always needed. This is what is your sort of palate change. This is where you can take a step back and basically see things at a completely different perspective. So the fact of the matter is, when I say all this, I am very lucky to be seated here with over 20 ministers of culture and education, real policy makers and decision makers. And when we all can sit down and talk about cultural collaboration without a thought of commercialization, without a thought of what am I going to sell you versus how am I going to help you, and because I know you're going to help me. I think this is why we're all here today. It's sometimes, like I said, it's short-term memory, forget it's almost our human gift to each other to allow that level of interaction. And COVID was a reminder for that. I think let's remind everybody here, we were all picking up the phones and calling each other. You know, I have Richard from the Guggenheim right behind me, and you know, we have Mariette, and you know, I have my partners from the Louvre. We weren't calling each other about the situation. We were calling each other about, okay, how are we going to reopen? What's your blueprint? Can you share your blueprint? Can I share my blueprint? UNESCO on the phone with everybody saying we need to keep these cultural institutions alive. Do whatever needs to happen. Set funds, work with all your governments, work with the institutions. That was a moment that shined on our human collaboration. And I think let's not have short-term memories here. Let's remember, let's move forward, and let's really think about a future for our youth and for the future generation of the creative industries.
Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your leadership too. Thank you both for kicking us off in what is going to be, has already been a very enlightening session and will continue to be so in the hour or so that we've got left. To both of you, thank you. I'll let you go. Well, that takes us very neatly to part one of the ministerial dialogue, the impact of artificial intelligence on culture and human creativity. And let me introduce to the stage now the ministers from Andorra, from Costa Rica, from Chile, from India, from Kenya, and from Morocco. Please put your hands together for the ministers from the first 6 countries that we have with us here today. Each of our esteemed guests will have about 5 minutes today to provide their remarks on a question that I will pose individually to you all. A number of you I know will provide your thoughts in your mother language, and Mina explained to the audience how you access translation. Thank you to the UAE, represented by the Minister of Culture, and of course to Abu Dhabi, represented by the chairman today of DCT, the co-organizers of this summit with UNESCO. Right, let me start with Andorra. Minister, thank you for joining us. Your Excellency, let's focus on cultural identity, heritage, and language in the digital era, if we can. In a country like Andorra, where cultural identity is so closely tied to language and heritage, how do you see AI supporting the preservation and promotion of minority languages, traditional practices, without compromising their authenticity? To the chairman's point, how do you ensure that AI is a tool rather than a master?
Good morning. Thank you for the question. First of all, I will thank for the invitation and congratulate the organization for this successful summit. At the government of Andorra, we understand and apply AI as a tool to support our culture, not as a substitute. AI does not replace culture. Rather, it can act as an amplifier and protect of it. It's a technology that we use it properly, allows for the collection, classification, protection, and dissemination of all our cultural heritage and language. The key lies in the ethical and participatory use of AI. We must involve local experts, artists, linguists, historians, and young people in the process of incorporating AI into our cultural work. In this regard, the government of Andorra has signed the Council of Europe's Convention on AI, the first international treaty that seeks to govern this technology while respecting fundamental rights and cultural heritage. This commitment reflects the country's will to integrate AI ethically and responsibly. In regards to language, AI can contribute to language preservation in areas such as documenting linguistic expressions and creating Catalan language models, or with automatic correction and translation. To complete this, the Ministry of Culture collaborates with the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, providing Catalan materials to train AI systems. In parallel, the government of Andorra has signed an agreement with Google Cloud to develop AI service with data sovereignty. Regarding the cultural traditions of our country, we believe that AI can help recover and document oral practices, legends, crafts, recipes, music, and festivities, thought, voice, video, or text. Likewise, AI facilitates the translation of this content so that the world can discover Andorra's cultural richness, but achieving global visibility without sacrificing local identity. A clear example of this is a recent initiative by the government of Andorra to implement 3D digitization of cultural heritage buildings using techniques such as photogrammetry and laser scanning. This enables precise documentation, facilitates conversation, and offers new forms of educational and touristic dissemination. As a conclusion, precisely because Andorra's cultural identity is closely tied to tradition and the preservation of language, our country is exploring how to integrate AI in a respectful and beneficial way for its cultural identity.
And I'm sure you are, thank you, and I'm sure you are ensuring that future generations in Andorra become not just consumers of AI-driven content, but also ethical creators and decision makers. Thank you. That takes us very seamlessly onto the Minister from Costa Rica, whose focus is not just on culture, but also on youth. So let's talk about how in Costa Rica you are ensuring exactly what we've just been discussing here, that future generations are not just consumers, but are decision makers and take ethics into consideration at the heart of what is this very transformative landscape. Your thoughts?
Thank you, Becky, and thank you, Abu Dhabi, for inviting us to this amazing conversation. I have some thoughts about this because new generations do not inherit a cultural landscape. They are forging their own with or between algorithms and their roots. It's different. The roots of Costa Rica are different with the Indian or the Chilean roots. So young people is discussing and discovering what is their heritage and how they implement it. Also, I must to say that in our case, we saw artificial intelligence can mimic, but it cannot suffer. Also, it can remix music, but it cannot feel and transmit something. So, as Baz Luhrmann, the filmmaker, said once, AI lacks the human cause and emotion that give art its soul. Algorithms can generate, but only people can transmit and promote this kind of art. What we can do, for example, in Costa Rica we have 25 main programs. From museums to National Theater, Melico Salazar Theater, dance program, training programs in music, dance, theater, filmmaking. So, for example, we decide to improve that museums and the public libraries, we have close to 70 of these libraries, must become labs on AI for creativity. They have to change that view that Ernesto said, the old view of public libraries in silent or museums in silent. No, this is a space where communities can get a space and also create for trying different things. For example, also in our Conservatory of Music, we changed the program for the first time in 40 years. We introduced the filmmaking and video games music composition curricula for the first time in 40 years. We have great performers. We have musicians in Israel, in Chicago, in Met Metropolitan Orchestra. But now we need to create this cluster of young musicians who will have an opportunity as a performer, but also they need a space to create a new path in a new industry with technology and art as part of their own exercise. Also, in youth, we have an enormous challenge because for the first time in Costa Rica, we'll have majority of youth people in the population. This is amazing because we have to understand what they can bring to the society. So, for example, we are working with cybersecurity. We are talking about youth entrepreneurship since the Ministry of Culture. We are talking about employment for training in these industries, also promotion of mental health through the arts, and finally, peace promotion. So we are taking advance of this new way of thinking to enhance our public policy in cultural affairs.
It's good to have you. It's good to see that culture and youth are in the same file in Costa Rica. Let me move on. Thank you, Minister. Let me move on to the Ministry of Culture and Arts for Chile. I wonder how you are navigating what is a dual reality of widening access to cultural expression through AI, which at the same time we are well aware also risks reinforcing systemic bias, an issue which is really big at this point. So your thoughts and your 5 minutes, if you will. Keep it tight.
Well, 5 minutes, isn't it? Bueno, la sociedad y la cultura del siglo XXI está absolutamente interrelacionada con el desarrollo de la tecnología, y en ese sentido en las últimas décadas hemos estado viviendo en un constante cambio y en un entorno digital, y hemos visto cómo en los últimos años la inteligencia artificial generativa sobre todo ha irrumpido de manera decidida en su desarrollo y de manera muy rápida, ¿no? Y los países tenemos que poder ser parte de este fenómeno y no solamente espectadores, ya que en el ámbito de la cultura la inteligencia artificial irrumpe modificando, por ejemplo, la creación y la producción artística, pero también los modos de participación cultural. Por lo tanto, hay una oportunidad en torno a la inteligencia artificial de ampliar el acceso, de poder en el ámbito del patrimonio fomentar la conservación, la documentación, la salvaguardia del patrimonio cultural, pero también tenemos que poder enfrentar los desafíos. Creo que uno de ellos es poder seguir fomentando los ámbitos de innovación en torno a la inteligencia artificial y de la creatividad y de las industrias culturales y creativas de nuestros países para poder establecerlas como pilares de desarrollo sostenible, pero también tenemos que dar un debate necesario porque la inteligencia artificial abre preguntas en torno a lo ético y lo humano. Y en ese sentido, la utilización de esta tecnología no puede significar una devaluación de la creación y el trabajo artístico. La inteligencia artificial y la utilización de esta herramienta debe contemplar la transparencia, la ética, el consentimiento a la utilización de obras, la justa remuneración de los creadores y creadoras y, por sobre todo, garantizar la diversidad cultural, que es lo que hablaba la ministra, ¿no? Y, por lo tanto, encontrar ese equilibrio entre los justos intereses de quienes son propietarios y titulares de derechos con la innovación es algo que a nuestro país, sin duda, que nos importa muchísimo. En ese sentido, desde el gobierno del presidente Gabriel Boric se ha lanzado la Política Nacional de Inteligencia Artificial, que lo que busca es generar entornos digitales éticos e inclusivos, y en el caso de nuestro ministerio eso se materializa en plataformas digitales como Chile Patrimonios, que pone a disposición de manera gratuita de la ciudadanía nuestros patrimonios culturales, monumentos, entre otras cosas, y una estrategia nacional de patrimonios digitales, que es una hoja de ruta para que nuestro país de cara al año 2029 pueda contar con herramientas para poder preservar, generar acceso y difusión del patrimonio, y con eso generar una valoración en la ciudadanía, pero sobre todo generar democracia cultural.
You haven't eaten up all of your 5 minutes, which gives me an opportunity to just take a quick follow-up with you. As we approach MONDIACULT 2025, you will all be very keenly aware of that Barcelona meeting, which is so important in the world of culture. How do you believe cultural policy help ensure that AI amplifies those diverse voices, supports historically marginalized communities, becomes a driver of cultural justice, and ultimately, as we talked about with Ernesto at the outset, how important is it that culture is a standalone goal going forward, particularly given the very divisive world that we seem to live in today? Very briefly.
Bueno, yo creo que la cultura ya ha demostrado en esta Agenda 2030 que tiene un potencial interseccional, ¿no? Se vincula con distintas áreas, pero tiene un poder en sí mismo, más allá de la diplomacia cultural o este soft power que tiene la cultura. Es necesario entender que un objetivo en una agenda posterior a la Agenda 2030 nos va a invitar a los distintos países que formamos parte del ámbito de la cooperación multilateral en poder desarrollar objetivos, ya que nuestros países tienen distintos niveles y estados de desarrollo en materia artístico, cultural y patrimonial, pero puede ser una hoja de ruta muy fuerte, puede invitar a nuestros gobiernos a poder fortalecer la cultura a través de presupuestos específicos y, por supuesto, seguir fortaleciendo, y creo que es muy importante, sobre todo en estos tiempos, y los decía Ernesto, la cooperación entre nuestros países. Hoy día en un entorno en el que estamos no podemos hacerlo solos.
Thank you. Minister of Culture for India. It's good to have you with us as well. India has a vast and diverse cultural landscape. It's also one of the leaders in innovation, particularly in digital innovation at this point. So how are you balancing innovation and cultural safeguarding in the age of AI, briefly?
Very rightly said. Thank you very much. We all have to accept that the change is the only truth. And our generation is living in such a time where the tsunami of changes are going on. We have to accept that after this AI into place, the diversities and diverse cultures like India, or the countries which has diversities, they are really in a very turbulent time. But as Chairman rightly said, that it's not a master, it's a tool. I will extend it further that it is a horse which has to be tamed, which has to be trained, and then to be ridden. So in this present era, where a country like India, where the diversity of culture is so huge, there are many languages which still not known to AI. So it is in one way the digitization which has to still happen in thousands and millions of the books and the cultural heritage what we are having. It is to be translated and it is to be digitized. First digitized, then only it can be utilized or it can be used by AI. And on the other end, since our new generation, the internet had connected all of us well. But since our new generation, which is coming and which is growing up in this era of artificial intelligence, it is going to be very difficult to protect our cultural identities. It is going to eliminate our boundaries, and it is going to eliminate our cultural heritage and provenance. So what I feel, that with the AI, we have to be very, very careful to protect our cultural diversities. But simultaneously, it is going to give us, as Chairman has said, that it is going to give us an opportunity also on the other end. So we have to keep a balance with that.
No, thank you. Thank you for your thoughts. Can global frameworks, such as those discussed at MONDIACULT 25, support policy?
Yes, very truly. And India is the country which has initiated this idea in MONDIACULT and during Kashi Cultural Pathway also, and the New Delhi Declaration also, that culture should always be the standalone goal, and we have to advocate for that. So India is continuously advocating that idea.
Thank you. Welcome. It's good to have you. Thank you for joining us. The Principal Secretary of the Ministry of Gender, Culture, the Arts and Heritage in Kenya. I want to focus with you, if I can, on economic opportunity and inclusive digital futures, particularly for women and emerging creators in the era of AI. Your thoughts?
Right. Good morning, everybody. Sabah al khair. Thank you for the question, Becky. I'd like to thank the government of UAE and also UNESCO for this invitation, and for also inscribing Gedi Ruins as the 8th UNESCO World Heritage Site in Kenya. Thank you for that.
Mabruk.
So AI will definitely be a game changer. It is a game changer. It is the future. Change is inevitable. And for us as Kenya, we're looking at an opportunity where democratization of accessibility of tools that are used in the creative industry are quite accessible. Tools like Canva, for instance, Runway ML, ChatGPT, these are some of the things that are of utmost importance to the creatives. And AI will catapult our creatives to make use of an opportunity and a platform where they can have a niche of different products that they can sell. Women in the industry of beading, for instance, in Kenya, have what we call market issues in terms of selling their products. So when they do the beadwork, like the one I'm wearing, it comes to a place where they cannot get hold of the buyers of their products. So AI gives them a platform, even giving them a platform in terms of language or linguistic exchange, where they can use the Maasai language to sell their products, and at the same time AI assists them in selling their products and making the buyer understand what they're saying when they're selling their product. AI is basically a tool for inclusivity, inclusion, for the people at the bottom of the pyramid, for the women, the youth, and the generation whereby we're used to lack of tech, lack of know-how in terms of inclusivity. But right now, AI is a super tool whereby a lady in the Masai Mara can sell her product to a buyer in New York, a buyer in Paris, a buyer in Abu Dhabi. So it's a good opportunity for us, and it's very exciting. Probably another thing I'd like to emphasize on Becky is market intelligence, trend setting. Where is the next big thing? What is the next big thing? What are the colors that the world is considering fashionable? What are the trends? And AI is a tool that will help the artists, the creatives, showcase their products, go with the trends, look at Twitter, social media in general, and use that to catapult and also make their products bought globally. Probably one thing I would like to now look at is the storytelling and the ethics, cultural diversity, and preservation of our knowledge as Kenyans who are of 46 different communities. 50 years from now, or 80 years from now, what is the story we're going to tell our children, our grandchildren? And AI is something that we would love to make use of. We would like to use this product to safeguard our indigenous knowledge, our tangible and intangible heritage, our heritage sites, and our cultural know-how. So another thing probably, as I wind up, Becky, is a fair cultural trade and innovation. A platform whereby a youth in Kenya can use to air and produce and market their art. The same age group in Abu Dhabi or Dubai can do the same. So it's a platform whereby there's equal opportunities for the youth to practice the same and also make an income. Because for us, our generation, the youth, they want to make an income. And AI is making it so easy for them. They don't have to use expensive, going to school and also having to use so much time and energy and resources to go and study and learn a particular field. But AI is making it so much easier for them to put money in their pockets and have a livelihood.
As long as there is equity of access, of course, and that comes down to things like data centers and a power compute available to everybody equally. I know Abu Dhabi working hard through G42 and Microsoft to ensure that compute power and data center facility is actually available, for example, in a place like Kenya. We haven't talked here yet, perhaps enough about governance, about ethics, and you rightly brought that up, and cultural sovereignty. So perhaps Minister of Youth, Culture and Communication from Morocco, we can address those as Morocco actively engages across sectors. What frameworks do you believe are needed to govern its use in culture, ensuring that there is transparency, that ethics are properly considered, and that there is respect for sovereignty. The floor is yours just for the next
Thank
few
you.
minutes.
Thank you so much. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. شكرا أولا على الدعوة وشكرا للإمارات المتحدة العربية على الاستقبال وعلى هذه المبادرة الجميلة والمهمة جدا. بالطبع تكلمتم وقلت بأن الذكاء الاصطناعي هي آلية، وأنا أتفق مع هذه الفكرة. إنها آلية في خدمة الإنسان. إذن إذا كانت هي آلية، نعم خاص يكون هناك يعني مجال تشريعي قانوني، ولكن لا حد الآن ما كاين لاش يكون واحد التخوف من هذه الآلية. ولأن الثقافة هي في نفس الوقت صناعة، يعني اقتصاد، يعني تجارة، وفي نفس الوقت خدمة عمومية. كيف نستعمل هذا الذكاء الاصطناعي، هذه الآلية، لتقوية الصناعة وفي نفس الوقت الخدمة العمومية. أنا أعطيكم أمثلة بالنسبة للمملكة المغربية. في المجال الصناعة استغلنا الذكاء الاصطناعي لإعطاء إمكانيات جديدة للمقاولات الصغرى، ستارت اب، لتشجيعهم لإنتاج خدمات جديدة في المآثر التاريخية. وهنا الذكاء الاصطناعي سيساعدنا باش نزيدوا نعرفوا بالتاريخ بهذه المآثر التاريخية، وفي نفس الوقت خلق مناصب شغل جديدة للشباب. وهذا هو التحدي أعتقد عند جميع الدول، خاصة أننا نعتبر بأن الصناعة الثقافية هي البديل على الإشكاليات التي تنشأها التكنولوجيا والذكاء الصناعي في مجالات أخرى وفي صناعات أخرى. بالنسبة للمجال العمومي، بالنسبة للخدمة العمومية، المملكة المغربية هي مملكة كبيرة، نعم بتاريخها، ولكن حتى بمساحتها، ومجموعة من القرى والمدن الصغيرة فيها بنايات ثقافية، ولكن ليس هناك أساتذة للموسيقى وخدمات ثقافية أخرى. فاستغلنا الذكاء الاصطناعي والتكنولوجيا لتقديم هذه الخدمات لجميع المواطنات والمواطنين. إذن هنا آلية هي صالحة وتخدم السياسات العمومية لوزراء الثقافة. بالطبع التساؤل الآخر هو بالنسبة لحقوق المؤلفين. أين حماية نريد؟ هذا نقاش أعتقد هو نقاش ليس فقط لأوطاننا، ليس نقاش وطني، هذا نقاش دولي. لأن هذه الإشكاليات ممكن أن تكون حماية في المملكة المغربية ولن تكون في دولة أخرى، والعكس صحيح بالطبع. فالتحدي هو أن يكون نقاش عام لهذه الإشكالية، للدفاع على الفنانات والفنانين، على المبدعات والمبدعين، اعتبارا بأن اليوم هذه الآلية المهم هو الفكرة، لأن أي واحد فينا يمكن يكون مبدع. الفكرة هي المهمة. شكرا.
While I've got you, thank you. While I've got you, and I want everybody, we've got about 6 minutes left.
Yeah, sure.
For those who haven't been able to address the sort of throw forward to MONDIACULT 2025, let me start with you, Minister. How can cultural ministers help shape the new global digital order, as it were, that should protect cultural rights while fostering innovation, this balance that we see being discussed across all sort of files, and very specifically on cultural policy? I'd like you guys to have an opportunity just to answer that. We have about 5 minutes, so that will give everybody just less than a minute each. So just pushing forward, if you will. This is your opportunity to advocate for MONDIACULT 2025 in Barcelona.
لا، أنا قلتها، احنا ندافع في المملكة المغربية بأن يعني انخراط التكنولوجيا، الرقمنة، الذكاء الاصطناعي في هذا المجال هو مهم جدا، لأن ينشأ مناصب شغل جديدة. لأن التحديات أخرى، نتكلم على الثقافة ونتكلم على التكنولوجيا، التحديات، وأنا وزير الشباب الثقافة والاتصال، هم كذلك التجاوب مع إشكاليات الشباب اللي هو التشغيل. ويعني إشراك التكنولوجيا والذكاء الاصطناعي مع الثقافة هو بديل في هذه المفاهيم في الصناعة الثقافية وفي صناعات أخرى، في الصناعة الرياضية، اللي هم بديل حقيقي لصناعات أخرى. لأن في التكنولوجيات مثلا في السيارات والطيارات، الديجيتال يعني هو اللي يأتي الآن في مكان الشباب وغير الشباب، والإبداعات تبقى إنسانية. الصناعة الثقافية هي المجال الأخير اليوم حاليا حتى الإنسان يلعب واحد دور مهم في الإبداعات وفي الاختراعات. فنعم أنا أتفق مع المبادرات التي قام بها في اليونسكو. الثقافة هي اليوم عندها واحد دور أساسي حتى في المجال الاقتصادي مستقبلا، ولا بد أن القطاعات الحكومية الأخرى يعني زملائنا في الحكومات وحتى المؤسسات الدولية تتبنى هذا النقاش.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Becky. So, as was expressed in MONDIACULT 2022, I would actually expect MONDIACULT 2025 to be further strengthening of what we discussed in 2022. Basically, the AI tools should be embraced in such a way that it is a powerful equalizer. It is some sort of help tool for entrepreneurs and also women and youth and the emerging creatives, turn culture into a capital and also combine the supportive policies, legislations, so that we talk one language, we talk in a united front as all countries that support culture and advocate for a brighter future. Thank you, Becky.
And the speed at which technology is transforming at present makes your jobs as ministers, I'm sure, challenging. MONDIACULT 2025, at the end of what will be another transformative year, I'm sure, is a fantastic opportunity. Perhaps you'd like to take this minute opportunity that I'm giving you.
I am a truly believer that musicians, filmmakers, writers, designers is not just artists now. They are the architects of knowledge, because this is the moment that we can solve with more creative legislation the subject of AI. So I believe that MONDIACULT has to be a tipping point in this discussion.
I think everybody, please, sir. Yes.
Thank you very much, Becky. What I wish to say that, as I have told in my opening remarks, that our generation have seen the most changes in the world. But when I was studying in university, I was doing my undergraduation, the computer emerges, it came into existence in the families. Everybody used to talk about this, that the computer is going to steal away everything. When I grew up, and then when I completed my education and the internet came into existence, the similar type of questions were emerging all across, all the platforms, all the boards, everywhere, everybody is talking internet is going to eliminate everything. Some people used to advocate for the Internet of Things, that it is going to change the world. Though it has changed, but still everything remains same. Similarly, now the AI has come, and all the platforms we are discussing about the AI, that AI is going to ruin everything. It's changed. We have to know there's a continuous process of evolution is going on, but still, with this emerging technology and this emerging, the change in the world, what we are seeing, we need to develop strict ethical guidelines to protect our cultures, and simultaneously, we will have to tame and use this AI to keep our coming generation connected with the roots. So in the MONDIACULT, India, as I've already said, that we have advocated always as to keep culture as a standalone goal, but simultaneously we need to evaluate and audit what we have done in last 3, 4, 5 years, and what we have envisaged and how much we are able to achieve. That is what we need to discuss.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I started with you, so I'll end with you, Minister. Your thoughts in 30 seconds, if you will.
Yeah, just very quickly, I agree with an idea they told us yesterday, and they told us that with AI, the humanity has a superpower. And the thing is how we use this superpower. So the thing is how the humanity does the things well to use it. So I think in Barcelona we can talk about all these, about ethical and other things, to use very well this superpower we have with this technology.
I love that description, and I'm glad that was something that you picked up here. As Mina explained, this is that wonderful platform for connection, for networking, for being inspired by other people's narratives, for rethinking the way that we have thought in the past. And so thank you very much indeed for that. And with that, I conclude. Would you like to, come on, let me, I did ask you this question at the outset, but I'll give you a very quick opportunity to reply.
No, muchas gracias. Yo creo que no hay que preocuparse, tenemos que ocuparnos del momento que estamos viviendo a través de nuestras regulaciones locales, de nuestras legislaciones. Ya hay un camino que hemos recorrido internacionalmente en torno a la regulación sobre la utilización de derechos de autor. Creo que sistemas como la inteligencia artificial y el entrenamiento de datos tiene un nivel de tecnología muy importante que sin duda va a permitir que la remuneración sobre la cual estos sistemas de entrenamiento se basan pueda llegar también a quienes han sido creadores y creadores de obra, y creo que eso es importante. Yo creo que la creatividad tenemos que dejársela al sector artístico cultural, y quienes estamos a cargo de las políticas culturales de nuestros países tenemos que hacernos cargo de las regulaciones.
Thank you for providing me a perfect end to what is the first part of this ministerial dialogue. Thank you very much indeed. I'll ask you all to retake your seats, and a round of applause from the audience. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Well, that concludes the first part of this. Let's crack on into part two, which we'll spend about a half an hour on as well. I have five esteemed guests, ministers, who will discuss with me culture and peace for a sustainable future. The second theme that we want to discuss today. And I want to invite for that part of the dialogue ministers from the UAE, from Colombia, from Kazakhstan, from Spain, and from Latvia. If you would please join me all on the stage. Take your seats. Thank you. Quick reorganization. Got rid of one of the chairs. Pull yourself in just a little bit. That's right. Yes, brilliant. Brilliant. Yes, pull yourself in so we can feel a little bit more intimate. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that first part. Excellency, let me start with you. You're the Minister of Culture for the United Arab Emirates, of course. And culture here, as you discussed in your speech earlier on, has been used as and is embedded as a pillar of peace building and social cohesion in what is such a rapidly changing world. We also live in a world which feels very fractured at present, and we discussed with the chairman and with Ernesto about the loss of what feels like the sort of old order of multiculturalism. It feels like, to a degree, we're supposed to be unsubscribing from one system, but as yet it is unclear what we are expected to subscribe to. So with that in mind, can I just get you to kick us off in what is this second part of the dialogue on culture and peace for a sustainable future?
Thank you, Becky, and it's a pleasure seeing you again. Just to start off, I'm a big believer in multilateralism. There's been a lot of skeptical thoughts around it, but when it comes to the field of culture, I've witnessed it. I've spent some time in the organization, UNESCO as the permanent delegate to the United Arab Emirates. So I truly believe in the power of multilateralism when it comes to culture, but more importantly when it comes to peace building. Cultural policies play a very fundamental role in peace building because its power is to unite people and to build bridges. Peace requires a strong presence of mutual understanding and not just the absence of conflict, and I think we all agree on that note. And we've seen the UAE's cultural policies, both at a national and an international level, include a focus on safeguarding heritage, both tangible, intangible, as well as promoting cultural diversity, whether locally or globally. Multilateralism takes place in all aspects of culture through the right partnerships, the right organizations, and the right forums, as the forum we're sitting in at the moment. and with multilateralism, this provides mutual understanding that leads to peace. So essentially, it's all connected under the organizations, under the right forums, whether MONDIACULT, whether UNESCO, and whatnot. It binds this amazing shared value of humanity. And I want to give an example on that. The Department of Culture and Tourism in Abu Dhabi submitted a file, intangible heritage file for registration at UNESCO in 2021 around falconry. And today, actually, falconry is the largest file at UNESCO. Whoever thought that falconry would connect 23 member states, including Kazakhstan and Spain, who joined the file of falconry led by the UAE. So again, now there is a mutual understanding of something binding, historical, that had our ancestors, that links to Kazakhstan, links to Spain, to the UAE, and then other 20 member states who joined this file. So again, if we don't have those forums, if we don't have those organizations, we won't see this binding of culture and mutual understanding that leads to peace and coexistence. Other aspects, Becky, to touch on is how can we re-enhance culture that has been destroyed, culture that has been fabricated, whether through war, whether through extremist groups. How can we bring back culture back to its land? And we've seen that beautiful example with Mosul, which I've spoken about, and Mina also gave us a brief example about when you build those communities back, the people come back. So at the end of the day, essentially, culture is for the people, and this is something that the UAE focuses on, specifically within the policies that we put through. Of course, cultural policies also has major global issues, such as I mentioned, the climate crisis and such. We continue to advocate for culture as a crucial role in culture action, and I'm very happy to see that being discussed again in MONDIACULT as well. So the call of action on multilateralism trickles down into those forums. But what we're really looking for in this edition of the MONDIACULT is action. We really need the right action, and we're confident that this one will spin off into tangible actions that other countries will follow.
Good stuff. Thank you. Minister, thank you for joining us today. Culture as a vehicle for reconciliation and building trust, something that Colombia has extensive experience in. We are, I don't have to remind anybody in this audience, at present, witnessing some conflicts which are not even close to us getting to that period of rebuilding trust, rebuilding society, bringing people together. But I wonder whether you will share just some thoughts about Colombia's experience in that situation and how the rest of the world might learn from the use of culture as a sort of, masthead for rebuilding trust in a period of reconciliation.
Sure. Thanks, Becky, for the question. I think it's a really good one, since I believe that the endless seek for Colombia for find peace is making the Colombia country who is always trying to build programs around the idea of peace. Where is peace in those days, And we are trying to create many different programs about how we get to that concept. And despite of that, I also have a problematic thought, and it's like, I don't know why governments still think that the idea of cultural peace is just for the countries, or relevant for the countries that are going through or experience armed conflict. And it is, for sure. We need it more than anyone else in the world. But we also know that violence and conflict has many different phases. We have symbolic violence, epistemological violence, and I really do believe every single country in the world, person, society, has involved in one of those type of violences. So it should be a matter of the entire humanity. The culture of peace is a matter of the entire humanity. But in Colombia, we are developing like some sort of programs that are looking for the idea that we never get through peace without recognizing the idea of the other, the idea of diversity, to cohabit in a land, in a planet, there are many different types of identities. So I would like us to watch a video that I bring for you.
I think this is about a minute long, correct?
Muchacha, no vas pa'l río, muchacha, no vas pa'l río, ay que no, muchacha. No vas pa'l río, ay que no, muchacha. No vas pa'l río, ay que no, muchacha. No vas pa'l río, ay que no. Mi maldita
Recoge la maleta porque este ganado se va.
I love that.
Thanks very much. Bueno, y empezando por reconocer la diversidad de lenguas, voy a empezar a hablar en español. Y el primer cambio que el Ministerio de las Culturas hace desde hace 2 años, no siendo menor, es cambiar su nombre, porque antes se llamaba Ministerio de la Cultura. Y hace 2 años cambiamos su nombre a Ministerio de las Culturas, las Artes y los Saberes, porque somos un país diverso, de una diversidad, como ustedes se acaban de ver, inimaginable. Entonces tenemos que empezar a nombrar eso otro, porque si no lo nombramos y lo reconocemos, no hay manera de que cohabitemos en un mismo espacio. Entonces ese es el primer cambio fuerte que hacemos desde este gobierno. Y luego construimos toda una estrategia acerca de la cultura de paz, una estrategia que está en nuestra política pública, nuestro Plan Nacional de Desarrollo y además migra a nuestro Plan Nacional de Cultura. ¿Qué pasa? Que todas las acciones que tenemos a partir del Plan Nacional de Cultura están irradiadas por la idea y el concepto de la paz. Y todas estas imágenes que ustedes acaban de ver son programas que están concentrados alrededor de la paz. ¿Y eso qué quiere decir? Que queremos crear comunidades diversas sostenibles. Porque es que no hacemos nada hablando de paz y de comunidad si no creamos entornos autosostenibles a través de las experiencias artísticas y de nuestros patrimonios inmateriales. Entonces trabajamos bajo 3 conceptos claves en esta idea, y es el primero, tener un enfoque territorial. ¿Y qué quiere decir tener un enfoque territorial? Poblacional, el primero es el poblacional, lo que ya he dicho, es entender que somos un país de 115 etnias indígenas, con más de 69 diferentes lenguas, con comunidades afrodiaspóricas, raizales, palenqueras, campesinos, gitanos, mestizos también, porque estamos los que somos fusiones de todas las etnias y no nos reconocemos en ninguna. Entonces, trabajar alrededor de la idea de la diversidad para nosotros es indispensable. Fortalecer esas comunidades, pero además, sobre todo, esto no se puede olvidar, es trabajar en la idea de interculturalidad. Porque cuando reconozco esa otra etnia, cuando entro en diálogo con ella, es cuando puedo cohabitar el mismo espacio que ella sin entrar a disentir, ¿cierto? El próximo enfoque sí es el enfoque territorial. ¿Qué pasa con el enfoque territorial? Nuestras prácticas artísticas en Colombia están fuertemente relacionadas con nuestros ecosistemas diversos y naturales. Todas nuestras prácticas están asociadas a los territorios de fuentes hídricas, a la selva amazónica, a la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, los indígenas de los 4 pueblos de la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, hacen todo un constructo ritual alrededor de sus territorios y de sus ecosistemas naturales. Entonces nosotros hablamos también no solo de hacer paz con el otro, sino hacer paz con la naturaleza, ¿cierto? Y el último enfoque es el enfoque de sostenibilidad, por supuesto. Y alrededor de esta idea nosotros tenemos muchos programas construidos alrededor de un enfoque turístico, un enfoque de turismo sostenible y turismo cultural que activa las economías locales basados en las experiencias propias del patrimonio inmaterial de cada etnia o de cada comunidad y de cada territorio. Y de esta manera cerramos un círculo que puede significar una especie de oportunidad para construir la idea de una cultura de paz.
And I thank you for that, because, thank you. Well, we're looking for a great example of what others can learn from an approach like this, and Colombia certainly provides an enormous amount of food for thought. Thank you. And on the issue of positioning cultural diversity, at the heart of what is going on, and as a basis for dialogue and ethical diplomacy, how is Kazakhstan, Minister, drawing on its own cultural diversity to foster dialogue, to build more sustainable and peaceful futures?
Спасибо огромное. Во-первых, я хочу поприветствовать всех участников форума, поблагодарить организаторов за высокую организацию и радушный прием. И, конечно, вы правы, любая созидательная инициатива, движение, проекты возможны только посредством диалога. И сегодняшний культурный саммит тому яркое свидетельство, поскольку мы собрались здесь, чтобы обсуждать вопросы культуры, проблемные вопросы культуры. И, конечно, все единогласно отмечаем созидательную культуру, культуры сохранения мира и стабильности во всем мире. И для Казахстана одним из важнейших факторов налаживания партнерства, взаимодействия между странами является культурно-гуманитарное сотрудничество. Я думаю, что это инструмент для всех государств, и Казахстан сегодня активно взаимодействует, тесно взаимодействует с ЮНЕСКО, является членом таких авторитетных организаций, как ШОС, Тюрксой, Фонд поддержки тюркской культуры. Конечно, мы работаем в рамках различных межправительственных комиссий и в многих других площадках, и активно взаимодействуем в культурной гуманитарной сфере со всеми государствами, с которыми мы имеем дипломатические отношения. И как вы отметили, уважаемый модератор, Казахстан имеет уникальный опыт достижения народного единства в условиях полиэтничности нашего государства. Для нас культура – это несущая опора единства многонационального народа. И вы знаете, что в Казахстане живут более 100 этносов, и государства создают возможности бережно хранить культуру, традиции, обычаи. Поэтому мы глубоко осознаем ценность культурного многообразования и президентский принцип «культура в многообразии» для нас стал своего рода преимуществом. И государство, как я уже отметила, создает все необходимые условия для того, чтобы этносы Казахстана могли сохранить и развивать свою самобытность и культуру. И вот если отметить статистику, я хотела бы отметить, что в стране функционирует 12 этнических театров, более 1000 этнокультурных объединений работают. И, конечно, при них функционируют этнические музыкальные ансамбли, хореографические ансамбли. И символом нашей полиэтничности является тот уникальный институт, который называется Ассамблея народа Казахстана. Он имеет конституционный статус и, конечно, является для нашим большим инструментом сохранения мира и стабильности. И, конечно, сегодня важно осознавать, что культура – это не только просто наследие прошлого, это живой механизм диалога, мост между поколениями, и нациями, и религиями. И это наша опора в будущем. Поэтому я считаю, что таких площадок должно быть много. У нас должны проходить различные конкурсы, фестивали, которые действительно нас объединяют. И сегодня вот в первой секции обсуждали возможности искусственного интеллекта. Я считаю, наряду, конечно, есть и проблемные вопросы использования искусственного интеллекта, когда очень сложно различить творческий труд человека и творческий труд искусственного интеллекта. Но здесь мы должны понимать, что искусственный интеллект – это уникальная возможность популяризации историко-культурного наследия, продвижения культуры и уникальная возможность быть единым в нашем стремлении сохранить мир. Спасибо.
Minister, thank you. And you brought up at the end of that the issue, the challenges, the opportunities that AI also provides, and that is an enormous point of discussion, not just here at the Dialogue, but here at this conference, and will be, of course, in Barcelona in 2025. So I want to give you an opportunity, Minister, as host of MONDIACULT in Barcelona this September. Spain has placed strong emphasis on culture's role in peace and sustainability. Of course, you will be taking much of what has been discussed here and much of what is being discussed around innovation, technology, digital innovation, particularly AI, as a significant theme as well, and we've tackled that this morning. Let's just talk about how your ministry is advancing both these agendas, if you will, particularly in how you are positioning culture at the heart of global policy making, and how important multilateral frameworks for global peace, for example, are to your mind.
Well, thank you so much. I'll try to be brief, but firstly, let me thank our colleagues, Her Excellency, the Minister of Culture of UAE, for hosting us, and also for their strong support to UNESCO and multilateralism and culture, which is a common endeavor that we fully share. And also let me reiterate the invitation to all of you to come to Barcelona at the end of September. You don't know how excited we are as Spain to host all of you for this important conference, and I would like to thank particularly Ernesto Ottone and all his team for the good work and cooperation we have been developing until now. Look, one of the issues that we absolutely wanted to be discussed in Barcelona was precisely culture of peace. Why is that so? Well, firstly, because this year is the 25th anniversary of the UN resolution of the culture of peace. And on the other hand, it has been mentioned several times during the morning, we are living very difficult times at the moment. We have more than 56 ongoing armed conflicts in the world at the moment. So it is our responsibility as culture ministers to see how do we make culture a strong tool to secure peace in the world. I would like to quote one of our most famous, one of the most famous Indian philosophers and economists, Amartya Sen, who once said that culture is a bridge to coexistence. And it is a bridge to coexistence, and we need to see how do we do and we secure this bridge of coexistence today. So that's why we want this to be an issue of discussion in Barcelona. Well, the ravage of war is terrible for culture, we all know. I mean, in terms of destruction of heritage, but also in terms of destruction of what one would mention. It is the cultural transmission, the destruction of cultural identity. So the ravage of war is terrible for culture, and on the other hand, probably culture is the most important tool that we have to prevent it. So firstly, what we need to do, I think, is to strengthen culture as a tool for foreign policy and as a tool for cooperation between our countries. So we absolutely need culture to be at the forefront of that cooperation. So that's why I think MONDIACULT is so important. That is happening now this year. Secondly, because we need to be aware, and I think our colleagues from Colombia can teach us a lot around that, how culture is important also for mediation and for reconciliation and for reconstruction. Culture is an essential component with that for countries or for regions that have been affected by war. And thirdly, I think, because it is extremely important to be aware how important it is for us to cooperate more on cultural protection. I'm really worried about how the different conflicts that are around the world are affecting our heritage. If you take Ukraine, for example, only in Ukraine there have been more than 480 cultural sites affected, only in Ukraine. So imagine the scale of that in the world. So we need also, and the UNESCO is doing a fantastic job on that, in trying to make our countries cooperate more in protecting and also in reconstructing cultural heritage that has been damaged by war. So. And let me end by here. So if we all agree that culture is an essential component in securing peace and an essential component of a multilateral cooperation, we do absolutely need that culture as a standalone goal in the next post-2030 agenda. And that is why this is another of the big issues that we will be discussing in Barcelona.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
a very good point. So I'm going to move on to our last minister today, but I think you've teed up a Latvian perspective, sir, on how we better safeguard identity, democratic values, and peace through cultural policy in what are, Minister, very uncertain times, not least in your own neighborhood.
Yes, thank you, Becky. And you are right, the world is changing faster than ever. And as Mr. Ratone this morning mentioned, we are in much more worse situation than 3 years ago, and uncertainty feels like the only constant, and that's why we are looking for something steady to hold on, something that reminds us who we are, where we come from, what connects us, and in our opinion, that something definitely is culture. Culture anchors us. It carries our stories, shapes values, waves invisible threads between generations, communities, nations. We all agree that culture is not a decoration. It's a pillar of resilience, democracy, and well-being. And these ideas also guide the integration, cultural, and media policies that are responsibility of culture, Ministry of Culture. During the last year, we in the culture sector have felt more listened to also in matters of defense, health, and welfare. But I would like to focus more on 3 aspects. Culture safeguards identity, culture defends democracy, and culture builds peace. So first, culture keeps us grounded. Through education, heritage, communities, even digital heritage, we stay connected to our roots. And in Latvia, we ensure that culture is accessible in all regions for all people, from children's books to lifelong learning, through extensive cultural education network, from song festivals to museums and theaters. And we are particularly proud of the program Latvian School Bag that allows 2 times a school year for every kid to enjoy Latvian professional art for free. And out of 5 youth choirs that will participate, the world famous choir Grand Prix in Tolosa, Basque Country this year, out of 5, 3 choirs will come from Latvia. Second, culture protects democracy. It opens minds. And think of a library as a safe space for dialogue, a theater that dares to speak about difficult issues, about museum that reflects tragedy, or public libraries, especially in rural areas, are a great example. Across Latvia, libraries are not just a place for books. They offer free internet, media literacy workshops, public discussions, safe space for learning, also for making the digital gap smaller. People come to read, yes, but also learn, meet others, speak up.
And they're still coming.
Yeah, and many learn to think critically and listen for the first time in a library. The libraries has become like these last islands of culture in some rural areas. And that's why we have introduced changes in the law to broaden the definition of library from the book storages to center for public interaction. And just like House of Wisdom in Sharia, there is a castle of light in Riga. And third, culture builds peace, not just within borders, but also across them. Culture exchange builds empathy, something politics cannot always do. And that's why Latvia supports minority cultures, languages, respectful tourism, and a cooperation across borders. We are proud that Latvian experts are sharing their skills in using modern technology to document and preserve the cultural heritage in Gulf countries. We are supporting Ukraine. We are cooperating with experts in Syria. And at the MONDIACULT regional consultation that was chaired by our Minister Agnes Selāce, Eastern European countries reaffirmed culture is not luxury, it's foundation for peace. But we must be honest, culture can be misused. It can create us versus them narrative, it can be manipulating, it can be weaponized, history can be misinterpreted for harmful goals, and conflicts. We know heritage is destroyed because it symbolizes identity and hope. That's why we must support forms of culture that builds bridges, not walls, especially for young people, through education and media literacy. And then I have another powerful example, Latvian Museum of Occupation. It preserves memory of Soviet and Nazi regimes, and it teaches the values of freedom. And this is how culture defends this sovereignty, not with force, but with truth. And in the stories that we tell and that grows the empathy in us. And today, when still sometimes culture is seen as less important than economic or security issues, we must be clear culture is not luxury, it's essential. And MONDIACULT in Barcelona is our chance to say this clearly. Again, culture belongs at the heart of peace building. It's not just a decoration for official events. And because culture speaks the language of heart, it connects, it heals, it inspires. And let me quote the Oscar-winning Latvian animator. We are in the same boat. We must overcome our differences and find ways to work together. Because culture is our best hope for peace across borders and also within ourselves.
You have done me a huge favor because you've basically just summed for me what I might otherwise have done myself at the back end of what has been this second part of our discussion. Thank you all. For those ministers who are returning again, who I had the pleasure of hosting last year, thank you. And for those of you who are new, and I know that you are very new in your file as a minister, thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's been my absolute privilege to be here at the 2025 edition of the Abu Dhabi Culture Summit, and we have explored the way that new technologies and AI are rapidly changing or shaping how people create and consume arts. We've looked at the impact on rights holders and human creativity, and we've talked about how culture can contribute to building a more sustainable and peaceful future. I feel very honoured to have had this opportunity. Once again, thank you.
Thank you.
To you both at the Ministry and at the Department of Culture with the Chairman for organising what I know is going to be a fantastic 3 days. As Mina said, we are now sort of halfway through. She started the morning by saying we're not halfway through yet. We're pretty much towards midday here now, halfway through what is, I know, a fantastic platform for collective thinking and rethinking. So just leaves me to say thank you. And please put your hands together for what has been an enlightening couple of sessions. Thank you. Mina.